Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming. I am going to officially call the annual meeting of the Mount Prospect Chamber of Commerce in order. I wanted to thank all the sponsors. I wanted to thank all of you for attending this morning and to thank our host as well. It's good to be back in a large group in a banquet room, I'm sure. So the Dynamic Year Breakfast, it's certainly a bright spot in our event calendar every single year. This year in particular, we were very excited to host this event because we have a whole lot to celebrate. First and foremost, we're celebrating you, our business community. You have demonstrated the utmost resilience in the past 2 years in light of the pandemic that has challenged so many of our small businesses here locally. And we've heard all of your stories, and we continue to advocate and support you in what you're doing. We also want to celebrate the state of the village, which I'm sure Mr. Hoefert will touch on here shortly. For the Chamber, there's a lot here to celebrate as well. From being closed and in debt in 2020 to start the year, and then to be impacted by the pandemic, just like so many of our members, we are now what we like to call internally R&R, revived and rebooted. To provide a new sustainable organization for our business community, one that they needed and one that they deserved, we've been fortunate enough to partner with Chamber Co-op. The Chamber Co-op is a network of similarly sized chambers throughout this local community that provides us resources to outsource our operations. The co-op hired Teresa Van Opdorp as our new business development director, and I'm sure many of you have had the chance to work with her or are constantly taking her calls and supporting her. We absolutely love having her on our team. But the co-op provides her with a series of collaborative resources from other chamber professionals to ensure that this organization succeeds and that our business community succeeds. Our chamber is currently collaborating with the Arlington Heights, Rolling Meadows, and Palatine chambers. This collaboration has provided our members with regional networking and soon to be announced regional marketing and membership opportunities while still keeping the focus on our Mount Prospect business community. Since launching our reboot, our chamber has experienced a 70% retention in membership. We have 34 new members, and we also have these flourishing community investment relationships that Teresa has touched on. We've also been able to bring back our events. Our events are something that we all want to be at and celebrate, and surely the community at large wants to be at as well. Over the course of the past year, we've held 21 networking events, which have seen nearly 400 participants. We've had our downtown block party return last year. At last year's block party, we had over 40 vendors and supporters, and we all sweated it out together for almost nearly perfect weekend. Our annual golf outing, which we were able to hold in a very subdued pandemic format in 2020, was back in full swing last year. We saw maximum attendance at last year's outing, and we had new partners and sponsors come to the fore as well. Our first Ugly Sweater Pub Crawl, which was Teresa's brainchild, brought together nearly 100 attendees from across the northwest suburbs for an afternoon to dine and support 5 participating Mount Prospect restaurants. Our member-focused programming included a new Business Builders initiative and brought back our professional women's group. These networking programs offer our business community a unique small group setting to network and build professional relationships. And as of yesterday, the Chamber has officially launched our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. This is an opportunity for this chamber to be a leader in finding solutions that will help address long-standing barriers and promote healing in order to be inclusive for everyone that we serve. These events and opportunities to connect are certainly wonderful. We are all glad to have them back, but we would not be able to have any of these initiatives had it not been the positive fiscal position this organization is currently in. Our organization is debt-free, we've got money in the bank, and it has allowed our board to think strategically and optimistically about its future. Our board is committed to building on this progress and ensuring that this community has a chamber that supports its hardworking businesses and advocate on their behalf so that they can succeed. So on behalf of our entire board, I thank you all for your support. I thank you for coming here this morning. I'm going to adjourn this portion of our event today, and I'm going to pass the meeting on to Mayor Paul Hoefert, who will deliver our State of the Village address. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Tricia, and thank you, Teresa, and thank you to the Chamber for having this event this morning and allowing me to address the crowd. And I'd like to recognize just a couple of people in the audience, if I could, joined by some of our current board members, Trustee Gens, if you'd like to stand up maybe, and Trustee Secatelli, and Trustee Rogers. Are there any other trustees in the room? Where? Oh, there's Augie. Okay. And Augie Filipponi. Wave, Augie. And Trustee Rogers is joined by his spouse, Chris. Hi, Chris. We have two other dignitaries with us this morning, former Mayor Farley and his spouse, Janice, and former Mayor Jurasek. Thank you both for being. We're also joined by senior staff and lots of business leaders, obviously, around our town, and I appreciate you all being here. You know, this first year has been a little bit of a whirlwind. I think we all know that. And I'm not going to address some of the things that we had to deal with because that's in the past now, but overall, it's been a great first year, I think. Lots of really good things happening. You know, it's called the Dynamic Year Breakfast, and somebody said, well, you know, I think dynamic actually refers to you, Mayor Hoefert. See, I tried a little humor at a liquor code presentation about 2 weeks ago, 9 a.m. No, not even a pity chuckle from that group. At least you guys gave me a pity chuckle. But one thing I want to let you know, if you came to see Bill Cooney's really cool flyover presentation, no, that doesn't happen today. That happens in the fall, right, Bill?
October.
In October. So if you want to get up and leave now, you could. No, anybody who leaves will be on my list. But I'm actually here to tell you that the village is in really great shape. And I think many of you in the room know that because you have firsthand experience. So sit back, and I want you to enjoy the next 90 minutes as I take you through all those great things. But I'm not going to do that to you, although I could, and you know that. Mike knows that, right? He even said that the other night. You love these board meetings. You just could take them on and on and on. And Mayor Farley and Jurasek know that too. Man, could that guy talk. But actually, I'm just going to take a few minutes. I am going to talk to you about all the good things happening around town, because there are a lot of them. And that's our theme today, good things happening all over town. North, incredible new development along the Rand Road corridor. Downtown, growth like we haven't seen in years. South Mount Prospect, new development, growing revenues, and additional potential annexations which add to growth and add to revenues. So, and so much more that I don't have time to mention this morning. So, over the years, through my experience, I've developed this list that it's my list. There's probably other lists out there, but key components that I think make a strong and desirable community. First and foremost is economic development and a thriving business community. Now, I say that because I'm talking to business leaders. That was a little bit of a, because if I was talking to a residential group, number 6 would be first on the list. No, but economic development and a thriving business community, if you don't have that, you don't have anything, because you can't sustain your community without it. Financial strength at the village level with a diversified tax base, that's primary as well. And under Ahmet and Mr. Cassidy and all of staff, we've been able to keep that going, and the village is very strong financially. Also, a sharp focus on basic services: water, sewer, streets, and life safety. Those are the primary reasons that a village government is in business. Service excellence from our police, fire, and public works departments, a caring and sufficiently funded human services, preservation and protection of our residential neighborhoods, because again, we're here because many of us live here. Obviously, many of us work here, and many of us run businesses here, but we have a lot of people that live in town. And outstanding schools, park districts, and a wonderful library. We've got it all in this town, and we are truly blessed. This morning, we're going to focus on the top two: economic development and thriving business community, and financial strength. The others are for another day. But before I go any farther, I want to make a couple of points. I want to make it clear that as we go through this presentation, one, I'm not implying that I'm taking credit for all of this that's going on, although I am the mayor. No, but seriously, but upfront work by staff over many years lays the groundwork for development to occur. So if that didn't occur, the development wouldn't occur, and it couldn't occur without all that work that's done ahead of time. This groundwork takes the form of proactive outreach, annexations, land purchases, infrastructure improvements, and more. You can't underestimate the elbow grease by staff that goes into preparing for potential opportunities which may occur in the future. So I told you there's lots and lots happening around town, and we're going to take it by areas of town. And up on our north area, there's so many positive things happening along the Rand Road corridor, and not just at Randhurst Village. We recently cut the ribbon at Northern Toole, and we cut the ribbon at Wild Fork, and Trustee Secatelli cut the ribbon at Home Goods at Randhurst. So Home Goods is key at Randhurst because the Carson space, everybody knows the big box that's there, they're starting to subdivide that space and put other uses into the space because department stores, we all know department stores are struggling these days. So finding another department store to come in is almost impossible. So dividing the space and using it for uses like Home Goods and other uses is critical, and they were able to do that. Also, we recently approved a subdivision for Randhurst. By doing that, we're hopeful that the owners of Randhurst, they're going to maintain the core of Randhurst, but they hope to sell many of the parcels around the perimeter, which will raise capital for them and allow them to do some of the improvements that need to be made there. And also, they're also considering bringing residential options to Randhurst, which I think would be really a neat thing to do, and I think it would bring the people that would use the services of Randhurst and also promote more uses to come to Randhurst because the people would be there. Many infrastructure improvements occurring up north. 3 of the big ones are the completion of the Aspen Trails Park and the Burning Bush Trails Park basins. Those 2 things, along with the additional pump that's been installed at Levee 37, are improving the quality of life for our residents in the northern area, especially those who live along the river. We've done a lot of things in this area of town over the years, but these 3 things, on top of what we've done before, hopefully is going to keep a lot of water out of people's basements and, again, improve the quality of life for everybody who lives there and anybody who's had water in their basement. And many of the people up there have had water in their basement repeatedly over the years. Anybody who's had it knows how stressful that can be and difficult it can be. A while ago, I referenced seeing a picture of Mayor Krause in a boat with one of the governors. This was way back in '87. They were going down the street, one of the streets up there. So we're a long ways from there, but that was an ugly event. That was one of those 100-year storm events that was occurring every 2 or 3 years, right? Up north, we're also doing, these are 2 projects that we've had on the books for a long time. Two major projects that need to get done. The Rand Central and Mount Prospect Road intersections, that engineering is completed and construction bids are being let currently, right? So when that gets built, hopefully that will improve traffic flow in that area. Of any intersection that we hear about, that's the one that we hear about all the time. So hopefully that will make a huge difference. Also, Route 83, Rand Road and Kensington Road intersection by Randhurst. Everybody knows that intersection. I was thinking this morning as I was coming north, when the light turns green, if you're about halfway, you know, if you step on it, you can make it. But I'm very safe. I'm very safe. I'm a good driver. No, but you all know what I'm talking about. And in fact, the person in front of me just went, even though the light was not in his or her favor. But that's another intersection that's going to have some major improvements, and I think will improve traffic flow in that area of town. So at this point, you know, while this isn't totally interactive, rather than just move through the whole presentation, if you have any questions now about what we've just talked about up north, we're happy to take the questions. Otherwise, you can hold them for the end. It's up to you. So seeing none, we'll move on. So downtown, I'm sure everybody's well aware of downtown, but three major projects that have gone on and are up and running. 20 West is a 73 luxury apartment building with 5,000 square feet of retail. Some might say, well, why didn't the developer build more retail? Well, we all know the state of retail these days, and I know many of you are in retail. You don't want to overbuild retail in our downtown because there's nothing worse than having empty retail space, right? So, and developers know best. So they, Nicholas and Associates, Nick's with us, they felt that 5,000 square feet was appropriate, and the board agreed. And leasing has stabilized at 94%, which means the building is, there's always a vacancy rate in a building, always. So the building is stable, it's essentially full. And that was fast, right, Nick? Yes. That was very fast. 10 North, that's a $30 million investment by First Equity Acquisitions, 98 luxury apartments, and leasing has stabilized there as well at 96%. Again, another fast lease up, almost an incredible lease up there. And the Maple Street Lofts is leasing, but that's a $100 million investment overall, again by Nicholas and Associates. When it's completed, 257 luxury apartments, 56 row homes, 15,000 square feet of retail, which Caputo's Market will be opening up in this year. Now, everybody, if I get one question a lot, the most, what's happening to the grocery? Well, if you've driven by there lately, you've seen that the refrigeration units have been delivered and things are happening there. So Caputo's is going forward, and we're all very excited about that. And the village did help with funding some of that in terms of helping hire and retain into that space. Today, it's almost hard to fathom, but today it's hard to get people, workers, to come in and work. And Caputo's has been stricken with that in some of their other stores, and there was concern that if they opened up here, they wouldn't have the workers to support the grocery stores. So they've overcome that, and they're on to moving forward on opening. Leasing there is at 73% in 10 months. Again, pretty impressive. And all the row homes are sold, right, Nick? Correct. So these three projects alone, if you add it up, represent $160 million of new investment in our downtown, and they bring 428 new living units. And one of the things that the benefits of new residents is they support the businesses in the downtown, but also throughout the town, right? So having that, there's 428 units, but if you put an average of maybe 2 or 3 people, that's maybe 800 or more new residents in our downtown area. So very exciting. Next, we move on to Prospect Place, which everybody knows is underway. That's a $30 million investment. 80 luxury apartments, 10,000 square feet of retail, and the end caps of that building are being built out for restaurant space, which is exciting. It looks like that building will be ready for occupancy at the end of this year. HQ residences, which will go on the former headquarters of police and fire, that's soon to get underway. That's going to be a $30 million investment by T2 Capital. That's 82 luxury apartments and 6 row homes and 3,200 square feet of retail. Again, the developer did not want to overbuild retail, and plus it's a little outside of the retail, the normal retail area. So the developer did compensate the village $2 million for the property that we own there. And we expect construction to begin this summer, right? So, in the fall. And another one is the new Chase Bank. And while it's not residential, it's completed, it's up and running. But what's key to that is by moving out of the 112 building and essentially opening up Block 56 for development, now if there's going to be development, hopefully at some time in the near future, then that building is essentially unoccupied and either could be reused or demolished, depending on what the plan is. But before, when Chase was there and they had a lease, they were there to stay until the lease was over. So it was critical that they found a new location, and they did, and it's really been an improvement to our downtown. Again, moving on to infrastructure improvements. Now everybody knows that we built a parking deck on Maple Street to take the place of the surface parking lot that was there, where now Maple Street Lofts resides. And then the pandemic hit, and there wasn't one parker in our brand new parking garage. But people are coming back, and people are going back downtown, and more people are using the train, and the parking deck is starting to see some use, which is outstanding. We're also looking forward to expanding the Metro platform to the east. I know that gets asked a lot as well, and we're kind of in a state of trying to work with the railroad and with other agencies to get that done. But when that gets done, that will allow the intersections further down to the west to be open even when the train is in the station, so that traffic can flow. Also, new pedestrian signal improvements and more. We're all familiar with the pedestrian improvement or the intersection improvement at Central and Emerson. It makes it safer to cross there. And also, before, when you would go from the library side across to the north in a car, you took your life in your hands, right? Because there's a lot of traffic there, and it wasn't safe. So now you have to make a turn. You can't go directly across. And I see a lot of people crossing there on foot or on bike, and it is considerably safer. So again, I'll go to questions. If there's any questions either about the north or the downtown, I'm happy to take them. Boy, I must be giving all the answers out. All right, so we'll move on to the south, and lots of great things happening in the south. And this is one of the big things, one of the huge things happening in South Mount Prospect. Cloud HQ. If anybody's familiar with this, this is a huge project. It's 1.6 million square feet on what we're calling a data center campus on the former United Airlines parcel. As we all know, United Airlines really hasn't been in that parcel or in that building, in those buildings, for about 10 years. So very underutilized. They'd wanted to, they certainly had relocated, but they wanted to sell the property. And I know Mike and Bill and others had been talking to United for some time about what was going to happen to that property. And then along came Cloud HQ. And this, I want to step back. This goes back to the comment that I made early on about preparing for the future. Under Mike's leadership and Bill and Bill Schroeder, we annexed this part of town a number of years ago. If we hadn't annexed it, it wouldn't be in our town. Cloud HQ would be locating there, and we wouldn't be getting any of the revenue. So you have to think back of the footsteps that went ahead of this. And now we are going to garner, just in utility taxes, $1 million a year from that. So it's a $2.5 billion investment by Cloud HQ, and that's billion, not million, that's billion. That is incredible. Estimated EAV from that is $100 million, which will increase our EAV across the village by 5%, right, Mike?
That's correct.
Yep. I've already told you, just the utility taxes alone, $1 million. And there are certainly property taxes and other things that will come off of that property. So what does that allow us to do? It allows us to take our South Mount Prospect Plan and put it into action, because we have a South Mount Prospect Plan, but we didn't really have funding to do a lot of these things. Again, along comes Cloud HQ. Now we have funding to selectively help grow our South Mount Prospect, as well as the entire village. It doesn't just have to be on the in South Mount Prospect. So Cloud HQ is a game changer. There's no doubt about that. So we are in the process of putting a tax increment financing district into place in South Mount Prospect. Now, I think everybody's familiar that we have used the TIF tool in downtown Mount Prospect very effectively since Mayor Farley's time, with the first developments, the first residential developments, all done under the TIF. And frankly, many of those projects would not have occurred if we didn't have this tool. Currently, there's some noise out there that some legislators would like to reduce the effectiveness of that tool. And frankly, it's one of the only tools that we have to promote this kind of level of development. And so I'm hopeful that that does not succeed. So in early March, we adopted an ordinance to create a joint review board. We have a public hearing set for April 19th, and things are moving forward. If you'd like to learn more about that, you can go right to our website, and then South Mount Prospect TIF. I've already kind of touched base, on this, but TIF benefits are many. You can use TIF funds for public infrastructure, additional housing, including affordable housing, grants for private improvements like facade improvements, and remediation of environmental contamination. And we have used that in our downtown for just that reason. Unfortunately, in a developed area, there are properties that are contaminated. It's a fact of life, and you have to deal with them before development can go forward. And TIF funds can be used to do that. You can also promote new industrial and office use. And when these new projects get built, it's a benefit to all the taxpayers of Mount Prospect, all of us. Annexations do the same thing. They spread it out so that everybody who works and lives in the village gets a benefit. So infrastructure improvements in the south. We will be putting in a shared use plan or path on Algonquin Road. I go up to northern Wisconsin a fair amount, and up there's lots of land, and there are shared use paths all over up there because it's the road and then greenery, so there's plenty of room to put these things in. But when you have a fully developed community, very hard to do. But there are places in our town where we can do that, and Algonquin Road is one of them. So we have received a $2.3 million grant in 2024, so look forward to that. And our ongoing sidewalk improvement program in the south has improved the walkability and, frankly, the safety for our residents in the south area. So again, I'll go to questions. If there are any questions on this last section or any of the others. All right, then we'll move on. So I wanted to show some of the other developments and build-outs that are going on around town, and this is not an all-inclusive list, but Dunkin' Donuts is going in at 1798 Elmhurst. They've started clearing that area. I think with the pandemic, they've had some delivery issues and such, but that building will be going forward. Just cut the ribbon at Sure Staff a couple of weeks ago. That was exciting. The pediatric urgent care that went in at 200 West Rand, I couldn't have been happier because there were two decrepit homes there for years and years, and Bill doesn't have to receive the call anymore saying, when are we going to enforce our code on those two houses? They're gone. A nice new building is there, and it's sensitive to the surrounding residents, very sensitive. Wendy's wanted to go into this space, and not that we don't like Wendy's, but we just felt it wasn't appropriate given the residential backyards and such that come up to this up to the pediatric care property. So they have a nice new quiet neighbor and a brand new building to look at. Caputo's I've already talked about, but that's moving forward. Heavenly Pianos, cut that ribbon back around December, I think. And if you haven't been in there, you should. You know, they moved from Arlington over and took over the old printing space and really improved the look of that building. And they have lots of great pianos if you want to take it up. Skip, you might want to consider the ivory. And Golden Oak, we cut the ribbon on Golden Oak, and that is open limited hours, but hopefully it will have more hours into the future. But that took a space that was essentially empty and fill it up with, I guess I would call it home goods, high-end home goods. So if you haven't been there, please do. Business licenses are on the increase. So in 2021, we had 79 business licenses issued. That's a 58% increase over 2020 at 50. Now, part of that has to do with the pandemic, because prior to that, I think in 2019, there were 92 business licenses issued, but they're on the climb and positive things are happening and new businesses are opening. Our business assistance programs are still in place. So the facade and interior build-out program, it's still there. It's a matching grant program. If you're not familiar with it, touch base with Bill Cooney. It's been an effective tool that we have used with many, many business owners over the years to either improve the interior or to improve the facade of their business. During the height of the pandemic, we also issued $10,000 grants to various eligible restaurants around town. The goal was to keep them in business, get them over the hump during the pandemic, and I think the program was successful. Obviously, it took a lot of hard work on the business owners' parts, carry out and such, where they weren't used to that, but hopefully our $10,000 grants helped them get over the hump. And then the last thing is the changes that we made to the liquor code. So during the pandemic, when we couldn't go out, cocktails and growlers were allowed to be on a to-go basis. That was new. And alcohol delivery started to occur. We also issued certifications for breweries and wine shops and made some improvements to video gaming. All of this now has been incorporated permanently into our liquor code. Before we had done this on a temporary basis, we saw how positive it was and an improvement it made to the businesses that needed it, that we made it permanent. New senior housing, I couldn't be happier about some of the new senior housing that's occurring in our town. So Mount Prospect Senior Living went in just about a year ago now. We're about to celebrate a 1-year anniversary. I cut the ribbon on that. There's 56 assisted living and 32 memory care units there, all market rate. And it's down on Linneman Road, if you're familiar. It's on the former St. John's property. It's a full-service facility, which we never had before. The Kenzie, we cut the ribbon on that with Cook County President Preckwinkle back in the fall. 74 independent living apartments. Affordable housing is a key component of that development, and that's on Kensington right across from Home Depot. And then just approved a few weeks ago, we approved on the in South Mount Prospect 53 affordable independent senior housing units for 55 and older. It's so new, it doesn't even have a name. But you know, it isn't long ago, and I think Bill can remember, and I know the mayors and Richard can remember, but we couldn't get senior housing in this town to save our lives. Now, part of it had to do with state laws and such, but Prospect Heights was getting it, Arlington was getting it, but we couldn't get it. And so people that were aging out of their homes or needed more care or whatever, that lived in Mount Prospect, they had to leave our town. And one of our most renowned or valuable residents over time was Leo Flores, and he had to move out of town to get the care, to get the facility that he needed. Today, that wouldn't have happened, or that wouldn't happen. Also, the American Rescue Funds. So American Rescue Funds is a federal program. The village is receiving $7 million from the federal government. This is $7 million that the federal government does not have, but we do. That was a little bit of a political comment, I'm sorry. But no, they've generously given us $7 million, which we can use for various purposes, but 3 of them are listed here. Job recruitment, which is what we did with Caputo's, and also can use it for green building grants, part of our sustainability, and website improvement grants. So if any of these fit your needs, see Bill, see Mr. Cassidy, correct? Because we've received $3.5 million of that funding, and we will receive another $3.5 million shortly. We certainly haven't spent it all, I know that, so it's there for business use. Moving on to financial strength. Lots of great things happening on the financial front in our village. We had $6.3 million more in sales tax revenue in 2021 than we expected. We had $1.9 million more in income taxes than we expected. We had $1.7 million more of general fund revenue, and guess what? We had $2.8 million of general fund expenditures less than we expected. So what a great combination. More revenue, less expense. I can tell you I've been doing budgeting for 40 years in my profession. When it goes the other way, you've got to give answers. When it goes the positive way, everybody's pretty happy. So lots of great things happening on that front. Thank you, Ahmet. And thank you to all the people who are spending your money in town and generating all these revenues for us. These are some of the key fiscal factors of the village. And again, these come from kind of my mind, but they're steadfast. So expenditures in this town, they've been responsible and controlled. It's been our forever mantra. I always like to say it goes back to the days of William Bussey and making sure we use every nickel appropriately and wisely. Tax revenues, I've already said, are up and growing on all fronts. Capital spending, and this is something that I have to compliment Sean and others. We always keep up with our capital spending, our infrastructure projects in this town, because when you don't, they just start to pile up. And then later on down the road, you've got a problem because you don't have funding for sewers that have to be repaired or roads that have to be rebuilt or whatever it might be. And then you're playing catch up. And then you're issuing bonds likely to do that. And then you're costing the taxpayers more money. Our debt levels are manageable and they are declining. They did spike after we built the police and fire stations, but they are on the decline. And in fact, last Tuesday night, we refinanced a series of bonds that will, by refinancing, will save us $500,000 in interest costs over the life of that bond. Again, thank you, Ahmet, for that, for bringing that forward. Other financial success, our estimated market value has up 19%. Our EAV has the rebound of EAV since the downturn in 2009, almost back to where it was. The village, I already told you, is receiving over $7 million in rescue funds that will be applied to our interconnect project, to human services projects, and to other economic development projects. The village's property tax levy has remained 0%, essentially no levy increase over the last 3 out of 4 years. So pretty impressive and something that the entire board supported. Plus our credit rating remained at a AA, which is important. And frankly, I'd love to see it at a AAA, but at AA+, it's almost there. But that reduces our borrowing costs dramatically. So it's key that we stay in that arena. And that just, again, is evidence of how well our financials are managed in this town. What the future holds. Well, I'd like to think it holds ongoing development and continued economic vitality. I'm hopeful that it will bring about the elimination of the administratively expensive vehicle sticker program. We have talked about eliminating the vehicle sticker program for years, but at $1.6 or $7 million of revenue, we just couldn't do it without replacing that source of revenue. And now I think we've found that source. And so the Finance Commission has looked at this, and I believe staff will be bringing this forward at some time in the future. I'm hopeful that we can put through another year of no increase to the property tax levy in the upcoming budget. And we will continue to build our rainy day fund for a potential downturn. And I don't want to be a downer, but you know that hopefully soft downturns do occur. And they'll be on the horizon someday, but we need to be prepared for that. We were prepared for the last one, and under Mayor Jurasek's leadership, We did have to do some difficult things, but we were also able to weather the storm because of the strong general fund that we had. And Mount Prospect is going to continue to be a great place to live, work, and run a business. I'm sure of that. So I say thank you to all of you, because you all are what make Mount Prospect a great place to live, work, and run a business. So thank you all very much.